the more that I look at the media environment and the longer that I've been doing this and analyzing it, the more it seems that everything in the society proceeds from the interests and the needs of the security state. And in particular, it's postured towards foreign countries. It's postured towards Russia, it's posture, and then necessarily towards its allies, because it needs its allies as a bulwark against its enemies. And then, of course, how that reflects the domestic conversation. So, for example, if there is chaos in America, let's say there's days of lead in America, political violence, chaos, who does that benefit? The cui bono, that benefits America's adversaries necessarily. So does it behoove America's adversaries that want to see us fall to lean into that kind of division? Conversely, it benefits the American security state for there to be stability, because there's 350 million people. How many soldiers? 1 million? How many cops? In order to keep everything stable and everything orderly, they need people to actually choose stability, choose lawfulness, etc. And so there is more that rests on the stability of the society than the force of the state. It's also the belief of the people in the political order. They have to believe it's legitimate. And if they don't, then they don't follow the laws. Maybe they take some of the government's power from the government. They start to manage their own affairs. Society starts to federalize or confederate. And so you start, once you think like this, you realize things have to be a very specific way. And the media has to condition and enforce that. Education has to condition and enforce that. Entertainment has to condition and enforce that. And that then a lot of how things are starts to make a lot more sense. And in some sense, we have to live with that. I guess that's how it will always be.
Consider, just taking two examples, how radically, as we've touched upon already, technological advancement has altered the world of communications in the way that we have discussed. And some plain examples of its impact beyond just cultural comms, say, might be Napster's impact on the record industry, online media's impact on the outcome of Trump 2016, let alone last time Trump, and Brexit 2015 or whenever that was. Now, the thing that's interesting about Keir Starmer, and Lord alone knows it's not easy to find something, the thing that's interesting about Keir Starmer is that he is exactly that type of bureaucratic, managerial, neoliberal, WEF, Davos type politician that has been annihilated through the rise of MAGA populism and Trump in your country. There is no consensus. I don't know how the UK government can survive if the people on the left detest you, if the people on the right, and even the right is now a broader category, even though they try to bolster with further adjectives, far right, hard right, smelly, disgusting right. They try whatever they can, but it just seemed like normal British people at this point. Like, I wonder if what we're being informed by this is that were we able to legitimately deploy the communication technology that has revolutionized the industries that I iterated at the top there, Nick, in a political sphere, power would fundamentally and radically change, and a precursor to that change might be the type of truces and alliances that we touched on at the top of this. I wonder what you think about all that.
A lot of people don't realize that the technological revolutions have actually taken place in waves in the past 30 years. And what a lot of people, this is something I've talked about on my show before, you have the internet, you have email, and people think that the internet is synonymous with the later developments like social media or smartphones, but they're not. They're distinct. We've had internet, email, personal computers for a long time. But smartphones and social media, that achieved mass adoption way later than you think. It happened around 2012. And I always think, is it any coincidence that I think the adoption of smartphone and social media hit more than the majority around about 2012 or 2013? Is it a coincidence that it was in the very next election in 2016 that you saw the rise of right-wing populism? Because they are distinct. It's like you got iPhone in 2009, Twitter, YouTube around about the same time. They reach this adoption about 5 years later. Then you get populism. Then you get Occupy. Very soon after, you get right-wing populism. And what happened right after Trump won? You had the antithesis. You had censorship. You had a government attempt to cool off a very hot technology. And they did it through things like this. It was Christchurch. It was, the various other mass shootings, Dylan Roof, among others. It was not even just the social media. They tried to get the telecom companies involved, the domain registrars. There was like a full-fledged attempt to basically undo the development of this like very hot medium of information. The medium is the message. And what you've seen in reverse, that's not mine, by the way. I'm borrowing
Malcolm McLuhan.
Right,
I know, but I was thinking about it today. Carry on, please. Well, I'll follow up
absolutely.
On
that. And what you've seen now in the past 5 years, what's really interesting to me, this is yet, to me, unresolved. All of that has now been reversed. Elon acquired Twitter in 2022. TikTok, coming from China, has different regulations than American social media because they don't have the same kind of NGOs and nonprofits advising them about political speech. So between TikTok and Twitter, you now have a liberalized social media. Then you have others like YouTube, Instagram, they're following suit. Why is it that social media is opening up? Could it be that AI models are being trained on social media because to get the best LLMs, they need the most data, and the data comes from the posts of as many people as possible? That's one postulate. Maybe it's political, but clearly, the convulsions of the past 10 years, they're taking place on social media, from an open social media to a censored social media, back to an open social media. You can map political events onto that, the rise of populism, the pandemic and the Ukraine war, the kind of second wave of populism. You could also map onto it the rise of these even next, the fifth generation, which is AI, and all the rest of it that's going to come down the pike later. And so that, to me, that's sort of, we're in a unique cultural moment now in just the past 3 or 4 years that has not been analyzed enough, that we're still trying to figure out, kind of the why and what's happening just right now with what you just said, Keir Starmer and the rest of it.
Balance of Nature delivers the phytonutrients that naturally occur in 47 whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers. Their fruits and veggie supplements include 31 colourful ingredients like mango, pineapple. We've got phytonutrients coming out of our wazoo. 4 whole fibers, psyllium husk, flaxseed, monk fruit, apples. Plus, by the way, 12 aromatic spices such as cinnamon, turmeric, and cardamom. 1 for each disciple. You gotta get them! Take them with water, chew them, mix them into food or drink. If you're taking Balance of Nature, the easiest way to stay consistent is by becoming a preferred customer. No reordering, no running out, no hassle. The best part, preferred customers always get the lowest price we offer, plus free shipping every single month. It just shows up your door right when you need it. Go to www.balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer with code Russell to get 35% off your first order, plus free fiber and spice supplement. For God's sake, hurry. This offer's only available while supplies last. Now, I wonder if, in this instance, how easily co-opted and biased and controlled we will be, because if the medium is the message, then the message is you can't centralize power in the same way anymore. You're going to have to yield power. You're going to have to find ways of devolving power. And probably the country that's most likely to be able to accommodate that, due to its sort of relatively recent origins and perhaps the robustness, but hopefully the degree of flexibility in your constitution, might be your country. I can't see it happening in China, Russia, and the Britain's resisting it pretty heavily. And yet that does seem to be the central dynamic. So I wonder, but obviously the people that least want that message to be received are those with most to lose, and that is centralised media, the government, the sets of corporate and commercial interests, and if there is some sort of dark occultist power behind that, presumably that too doesn't want it. So how then do you think we promote those ideals, if you agree that they are ideals worth promoting?
That is obviously one perspective on it, and that could be the idealistic, the aspirational idea, which is, and certainly that's what I thought for most of my life, for most of my adult life, is that Trump is on Twitter, and that means he can talk to us directly. So there's no gatekeepers, no mods, no censorship. Like, he's connected to us. There's no kind of gatekeeping institution that stands in between and mediates between elected officials and people. But then you think about things like what they said after he won. They said, well, You may think that that was the case, but really the Russians were involved. That was the answer from the government, is the Russians manipulated the conversation. And, for the longest time, I said, that's ridiculous. We love Trump because of what he was. And that was true for myself. But you also think about things like the Arab Spring. You also think about the first time that social media was deployed in a political context was by Western NGOs, was by the American empire against these Muslim countries. And it was aspirational. The younger generation demanding change, democracy. But what did it turn into? It turned into Islamism. Hosni Mubarak was replaced by the Muslim Brotherhood. It led to the rise of ISIS in some cases. It certainly benefited Israel in many ways, benefited the American state. And so, even especially over the past 5 years, you have to wonder, the things that you see on Twitter, is it even real? And before we even figured out what was even, you could say, authentic or legitimate on social media, we didn't even have time to figure out that conversation. Now you have AI. Now you have AI, which is deploying their own agents on social media in an automated way, creating images, deep fakes, manipulated images, like with this assassin. One of the things that people say is a discrepancy about the person that's in custody is that he does not resemble the photo that the FBI gave. And the FBI said, well, that's because we AI enhanced and upscaled the resolution of the photo. So it's like, I think that there was maybe this early aspiration that, yes, it would lead to freedom and decentralization. At the same time, though, I think it's even maybe bigger than control and freedom. It's order and chaos. And I think that truly we're getting chaos. Truly we're getting, and everything that comes with it. Deception, a lack of accountability, people pretending to be someone other than they are, sinister forces manipulating people, preying on the vulnerable, the dumb. And so, and by dumb, I mean the deaf and blind. I mean, people that are, in a deeper sense, they're not able to critically think. I think about like my parents. My mom texts me all the time, Nicholas, is this real? I saw this on Twitter. They're not ready for this. They're just not ready for that kind of stuff. And so I think what we're seeing is a destabilization, and to call it freedom is a way to interpret it. But I think in terms of the physical, I like that you said velocity and density, because you can use the physical language to describe these things. It's a destabilization. It's a disintegration. It's an atomization. It's things coming apart. And whenever things come apart in the atomic age, nuclear explosions occur. Energy is unleashed. And on the other side of it is destruction,
But in the quantum age, which is the age we're in, a deeper unity is discovered. Now, the idea that there is that much energy entailed and compounded atomically is the miracle that defines the late industrial age. But the quantum age is that beneath apparent separateness, there is a unity. Perhaps the detectable outskirts of our Lord are felt there.
Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble.